tutorial on how to set up dispatching. In this tutorial video, you'll learn how to set up the basics of dispatching in ESC. This includes the entering of status codes, service request codes, dispatch types, and priorities. You can find these setup items in the dispatch pull-down menu. The first one we'll take a look at is Enter Status Codes. Enter Status Codes are used to manage your workflow on the electronic dispatch board. When the status code of a dispatch is changed, the dispatch time and date is stamped in accordance with the rules applied to the status code. This may also change the icon on the dispatch board. We have a few default status codes already listed here for your immediate use. You will see Pending, which is the default status for any dispatch that you have created. Next, you'll have Traveling. This is for when the tech is traveling to, and perhaps from, the job. Working is when the tech begins work at the job site or location. We then have Complete and Off Job. Complete is used when the tech is done with the dispatch and it then needs to be invoiced, while Off Job is used when the tech needs to go back out and finish their work later. These status codes can work in almost every call you have, but you can also add new status codes by choosing the Add New button. Editing the default statuses may cause them to behave incorrectly, so this is not something we would recommend doing. Now let's look at Enter Service Request Codes. Service request codes are a time-saving feature used to quickly add common reasons customers call you to the dispatch. These codes can also add information into the notes on the dispatch and contain estimated completion times and even set skill levels. The default service request codes you see on the screen may be different than what you find in your database. This occurs when you create a new database by selecting one of the business types that we have available in the new company setup wizard. If you choose HVAC, for example, it will populate with some of the common HVAC request codes. To add a new request code, we will want to choose the Add New button at the top left of the window. The code is the first empty field we come across. This can be any combinations of letters and numbers up to a maximum of 7 characters. To modify one of the existing service request codes, simply double-click on the code or the description in the list. The Time field is used for setting the estimated time for this job. The time is measured in minutes, so 120 minutes equals 2 hours. The skill level is designed to be a numeric value between 1 and 10. The dispatch will be set to the highest skill level out of all the request codes that are added to that dispatch, so you don't assign an underqualified technician to the dispatch. The description is a short description of this issue that the code is designed for, and the tasking description can be used to automatically add notes, steps, instructions, or reminders to the dispatch. Anything entered into the tasking description field will automatically appear in the dispatch notes field when this code is added to that dispatch. The next thing we'll need to set up is dispatch types. The type field is a way of classifying the dispatch and can also be used to mark this dispatch as billable or non-billable. A non-billable dispatch will not prompt you to invoice it in the sales invoicing screen. Billable means that once a dispatch is complete, it will show on the uninvoiced dispatch list report and in the Create from Dispatch screen in sales invoicing. Your default dispatch types are Charge if the customer will be billed, COD if the customer will be required to pay up front, and SA if the dispatch was posted from a service agreement. The dispatch type setup screen shows 3 columns: Name, Billable, and Active. If you click on the Add New button to create a new dispatch type, you will see the same available options. That's really all there is to it when creating dispatch types. The next setup we'll look at is Enter Priorities. Priorities can be used to organize, categorize, and/or color code dispatches on the dispatch board. When you choose Add New, you'll be able to name it and assign it a color. The name can be a maximum of 6 characters long and can consist of letters and numbers. Now that we have set up the basics, we'll need to visit the System Setup screen to select our screen defaults. This is found under the Company pull-down menu, and then clicking on the Dispatch tab. The default tech should be set to unassigned. When you create a new dispatch, this is a non-tech column where that dispatch will automatically be sent to until it's assigned to a real technician. The default dispatch type is already going to be assigned as COD, but you can change this to any dispatch type that you have set up. The type of dispatch number should be set to sequential number. The other option, which is customer number plus date, assigns the dispatch number as the customer number and the month and day, but does not include the year. This can cause issues if and when the customer calls in on the same calendar date in the future. For this reason, we highly recommend using sequential numbering. The starting dispatch number is just that, the beginning number that your dispatches will automatically be assigned to by the system. The default lead time in minutes determines how many minutes to add to the time received field to calculate the time promised when a new dispatch is created on the Enter Dispatch screen. When a dispatch passes the lead time, the call will display a red clock on the electronic dispatch board to show that the call is late. The default for this field is 60 minutes. When creating a new dispatch, it will take the time the dispatch was entered and add 1 hour to it for the promised time. You can override this by entering your own promised time or by adjusting the default lead time up to 999 minutes to automatically set the promised time as far ahead as you want to. The default priority is going to populate the priority field on the dispatch with the one you choose here every time you create a dispatch. This field does not need to be filled in if you don't want it to automatically assign a priority to new dispatches. Simply leave the default priority field blank. Next, we have the option to carry dispatch notes to the invoice. Checking this box will cause all notes in the dispatch notes field to appear on the invoice that is created from that dispatch. These notes will not be printed for the customer to see unless you select the Print Dispatch Notes on Invoice option. The item used for dispatch notes is the billing code or history code that is used for those notes. Using a history code for dispatch notes assures that those notes will be carried to the customer's history record when the invoice is saved. Finally, you can change the way that ESC calculates the amount of labor hours on an invoice by telling it if you want to bill the customer for travel and work time or for work time only. Once you have your default selected, click OK on this screen. You have now completed the basic setup for dispatching. Based on the database defaults alone, you'll be able to start creating dispatches in ESC without much setup at all. You can also come back to any of these screens at any time to make additional changes or additions. This completes our tutorial on dispatch setup. To learn more about dispatching, please see the other tutorials in dispatching in ESC. Thank you.